Yeah, so AI is just a tool to create something something different. And yeah, the one who uses it in the wrong way, just like a knife, for example. I mean, a knife is very helpful in the kitchen in order to cut your meat and all your vegetables and stuff. And just for the use of that, nobody should be held like responsible. But once you use the knife and start murdering people, yeah, then you're the one to blame and not the maker of the knife, because it wasn't meant to kill people. If AGI would be developed and we have it, then it would mean that all people who get the purpose out of work will not really get the purpose out of it anymore, because a robot or an AI model can do it better.
The following is a conversation with Fabian Lankar. He is lead data scientist in Isatis Business Solutions. This is Sanjeev Ranjan podcast. Hi Fabian, thank you very much for coming to my podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
So could you please tell us about your AI journey so far?
Yes, of course. So I've started 7 years ago in the AI and data world. I've worked as a consultant, as a data scientist for the most of the time. As of right now, I'm the lead of the data science unit at Isatis Business Solutions. And I work for different clients to build AI models. And I've also in the past year did speak at a couple of conventions and events. So that's also something I'm looking into.
Nice, sounds quite interesting journey.
Yeah, it's been fun so far.
So what kind of practical AI use cases you have handled yourself?
So one of the projects which I'm most proud of are one I did at a company, NEPV, which was to build a model working on AI, which made use of computer vision. And we use computer vision in the research in order to get our data points quicker. And the research itself was about emergency vehicles and how they operate right from the start all the way until they are at the scene where they are used. So about firefighters, ambulance, and police cars. And how they behave during traffic when they are either have their sirens on, or if they don't have their sirens on, how do they behave compared to like the average car. And the thing was, we weren't allowed to actually measure the speed and such inside. So the researchers at the time decided to film everything with a dash cam. But the thing was that they forgot that every minute which was filmed, also somebody needs to look at in order to see how fast. For the fastness, they actually used a GPS system. But for deciding if they are like on a highway or within the city, they had used people to actually look at the footage to collect all these data points in order to see how they were driving. And in the end, it turned out that that took like a lot of time for people to look at all the footages which were collected. And I was hearing this issue and I thought, well, this can be done so much quicker with computer vision, especially when already people looked at it and gathered some data points. So based on that, we worked out together with Justitie en Veiligheid, which is from the Dutch government. We worked out a computer vision model to look at all the footage and then translate it to data, and such that the researchers can focus on the data points and not on watching videos.
Quite interesting project.
Yeah.
So is it already live, or it was?
It was at least ready to use once in what was it? I think like 6 weeks. In 6 weeks we built the model. And then it was ready to use, but all the footage wasn't collected already. So they did some pre-research and they used the footage in order to get the data points which haven't been looked at yet. And for the final product, we did want to use some human in the loop, so that the people who were first were looking at the real footage now looked at some high probability cases where there was something which we wanted to collect. And then the human was deciding, oh, this is a data point, this is true, or this isn't a data point, this is false. That way we could increase the accuracy even more by making it a co-pilot actually for your doing.
What is the thing which excites you most about AI? Means, what was the thing because of which you entered into AI?
So initially, when I first got introduced to AI, that was during my bachelor's. I got a subject called artificial intelligence, and once I got it, I was like, "Oh, this is amazing! This is so." It almost feels magical that a computer can learn on its own a certain task, and then do it over and over again. So that was filled with excitement, but also I saw how far we've got in quite a short time, and then I was like, "Oh well, still, let's." Think about it and wonder what if this can do even more. And so I also saw with great potential a great risk that if this falls in the wrong hands, that it can really also hurt some people. Especially back then, I mainly thought about social media and how it might worsen their social media experience, not due to their awareness because people got glued to the phone, but mainly due to this experience. Like so while they might see something that is very fun in the moment, they notice that the time is flying by and they don't really experience something. So these kind of things were things which I was worried about, and even more extreme. Maybe when it comes to war fights, then we could also use it in different ways which might be harmful. So that way I was thinking, well, since it feels magical and it does provide some power, I can, instead of leaving it over to other people, I wanted to get involved and actually learn more about it so that I understand it better and also apply it in a good way. So trying to steer that wheel instead of just following it.
Sounds like you are quite passionate with this technology, AI.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. So, in general, I follow like all the news, and especially right now with like OpenAI, and first GPT-4 was a breakthrough, and like last week we saw Sora coming out, a video generation model, and I'm like the news in AI is one of the few news sources which I actually follow to the core and also try to understand like how it works.
How do you see this latest development, Sora? Means, how do you see changing our society or world in general in coming few years? Where it could take us in the coming years?
That's a great question. It does have a lot of impact. Like if you look at the footages, it really provides professional camera work, and while it still has some flaws, which it also provides like the explanation, like what kind of things still can go wrong, we see that it provides very good quality video for maybe a small duration, but the characters which got involved or introduced in these clips stay in the clip itself. So there is some character consistency, which was quite hard previously to actually do with DALL-E 3. So if you want to generate just a picture of one person and then want to generate it again based on a prompt, it was quite hard. But now when we see it in a video form, we see that the same character can come back in different shots. And that's quite impressive. So that's something which is just impressive of itself. But even further is that like what kind of impact can it have with regards to the real world? Is that I've read that there was one Hollywood director who was about to pour in billions into a new film, but he didn't start it yet. And once he saw the product of what Sora could do, he he canceled the project. He was like, oh, if we can do this now with AI, I'm really scared and interested with regards to what it can do once we would have finished our film. So he was like, well, apparently AI is really the thing which can challenge our production quality. So I rather sit it out a little bit on the sidelines and see how we might use it, instead of trying to make a new film in the more traditional way. So this is something which Sora will have impact on the long term. Like actors might not actually be needed anymore.
And how about directors? Because the director dropped the film, and that means...
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think directors will be there for a little bit more longer because they are the ones which also have a certain vision with regards to what they want to produce. And actors, while they might have a vision with regards to the character that they are playing, those kind of visions align with the ones of the directors or the storytellers. So from that perspective, you could assume that the director might be there for a little bit longer. But if you just ask Sora, build me an amazing Hollywood movie, just the word amazing would be enough to provide an amazing movie. And I mean, amazing is subjective. But to a certain degree, it's also objective, because we do have like hit movies and hit videos which are shared enormously. So these words are derived by this impact of such a good movie. So in the end, probably there will also not be directors, but they might survive a little bit longer.
So all these creative jobs, it seems like they are in threat by AI. They are the first target of AI when it comes to jobs.
Yeah, that's what we are seeing now. I mean, initially, if you was ask somebody about when will the robots or the AI will take over and which jobs will be first, 30 years ago, if you would ask that, the answer would probably be, well, the factory workers. I mean, those kind of already got replaced by machines. Yeah, so first the blue collar work and then the white collar. But it turns out now that you actually need the brains first. And the body, so the machine, will come later. So it will be first the creative jobs, because creativity also comes with a certain amount of randomness, which AI is really good at predicting the right amount of randomness when it comes to these words which are like amazing or beautiful or kind of subjective, but it knows like the general purpose behind it. Yeah, then thereafter will be the more analytical work. So where logic is applied, math, these are currently quite difficult for our models like GPT-4. They need other programs to solve it right now, these kind of questions. And thereafter will be the blue collar work. So our construction workers and cleaning people. So these will be probably the final, the last man standing.
So here by brain you mean the algorithm itself, and by
Yes.
body you mean robots.
Yeah.
First brain needs to be developed, which is already developing with breakthrough of generative AI and new AI breakthroughs.
Yeah, true. It turns out that it's quite difficult for models to do something in a 3D environment in real life, because real life has physics. Mm-hmm. So you really need to think about how heavy is it, what kind of shape is it, how do I need to apply my own strength in order to shape it in a certain way or form. And that turns out to be very difficult. So if you want to beat an AI in a challenge, you would rather pick Toddler's game where you have these kind of boxes and blocks putting into the shaped holes. Mm-hmm. You rather want to play that versus an AI than a game of chess, for example, where logical reasoning is applied. Yeah.
And that's something new.
Yeah, it sounds rather counterintuitive, right? I mean, what a toddler can do, an AI can do, but what a high-end manager or consultant can do and I can do. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it is indeed. How do you see an overall picture of people and their mindset shifting with AI? Let's say with AI right now we get a lot of recommendation of for videos or something customized to our interest. Mm-hmm. I will give my example. Few months before, I just got introduced to some of the very popular writers in the world. I never used to read before that much, but I started reading few months before, and then I read one videos. I listened to one video, and then and it keeps on giving me similar videos, and I keep and that helped me in continuing my journey. And I was like, and it happened very seamlessly. So it took away all the effort and time to figure out myself what could be the next video to watch or when to watch, because it keeps pushing the right content which matches my current interest. And that's going to, of course, in my case or somebody else who is going to learn something, who watching videos for their personal development or to know just what are the normal life books there from different areas of life, and they will get more and more mature in their mind after reading the experience of the author or after listening those videos, and it will accelerate their maturity in those in those good directions. But then there is a bad side also. The same thing can happen with the bad content also. If somebody watches, I assume watches a kind of content which is not very healthy for them, and then they are also bombarded with the same kind of content again and again, then I assume that they will be accelerated on the wrong path very quickly. So it's like AI is really bringing acceleration in all the direction.
Yeah, true. I mean, we kind of see it already with TikTok. They did a study based on people who are watching TikTok, but they tried to, I think it was either like or to keep watching the videos which seemed depressing. So everything which was looking like, oh, this has a depressing feel, let me like it or watch it in order to feed the algorithm that you are like depressed. So that was the thesis. If I treated more depressing things, will it try to cheer me up, or will it try to feed me more sadness? And it turns out that it will give you more depressing videos, and the videos which were shown got more and more extreme towards hard depression and sadness, and so they were only stimulating whatever you already were feeling. So from that point of view, yes, it does. AI can help you to go even deeper in a certain emotion or a certain thing you're looking for if the recommendation model is trained right. But yeah, there's also the harm. So I would say you could also provide some ethical guidance in these kind of cases. So if you're, for example, have depression and you're finding videos interesting which are about suicide, you might also want to have a pop-up that once you detect that as an algorithm, that you also get a pop-up where like a number you can call just to talk with people in order to help you. So we can use even these, I would say, bad behaviors from AI, which steers you into the wrong direction. You could also use that to alert them and make them aware of that they are feeling not healthy, not in a good way, and provide them with the help that they actually need. So we can also use it in a good way.
Yeah, I agree. So this acceleration or momentum in all the direction because of AI, I see it making difficult because of its bad. If we only think about its bad impact, then I think it's very difficult to control or contain those bad impacts because it accelerates so quickly and that you can go into certain emotion very deeply in a very small period of time, and it could be very, very difficult to means if something happens so quickly or suddenly and continuously it's happening, then there is very less control, or it's very difficult to control that kind of behavior. Can you think of any solution of that, like when in the training or at the time of recommending only, companies can take into account that these kind of bad emotions somehow they they present less content like videos, or somehow
There's
can
some
they control it?
guidelines or
Somehow can they control it at the source itself rather than user choosing for help?
I would say there are two solutions to that. On one part, you could say, let's train the model itself only on good data, on good data sources which have been reviewed by humans. So that would help. Because what we now see is that, especially the first iterations of GPT-4 were trained on, no, that's not, it wasn't GPT-4, it was from Stability AI, their large language model. That one got trained on a lot of just internet websites. And you really could see that the amount of information which it spilled out wasn't like really verified by humans. So first thing is higher quality data. The second thing is, once you have already trained your model, you can ask, especially with regards to large language models, you could ask your model itself to review it and ask it, well, does it provide any harmful language, or does it provide any harmful images? And then you could describe in which ways this could be harmful. So you can use your own system, which you just created with AI, in order to check how harmful it is. And once the answer would be, yes, it does contain harmful images or harmful words, or this isn't polite or something, then you could say, well, I'm not giving this information to the user. I just sent out a message that this might be in violation of our terms, which we agreed on in order to use the software. So, yeah, there are filters on the back end and more on the front end side.
Yeah, and that's good to know. And all this, so generally companies without regulation, things does not work in that controlled way. So are governments already aware of these threats and working on that in terms of regulation?
Yes, governments are very busy with it. I know that the US is currently trying to develop something. And I think that the EU is a little bit more upfront, so Europe, with the EU AI Act. I don't think that they already have a final version, but they did already share some initial pages in order to get reviewed by the public and by some experts. And yeah, so they are trying to provide some rules in order to decrease the impact that highly risked AI can have.
Will those rules will be able to prevent the use cases which we just discussed, like continuously getting videos which can cause more and more depression, for example? What do you think? It's hard to control by government.
I believe that the government will not say, oh, we shouldn't develop this because it will get in the way of certain amount of jobs. I mean, innovation in of itself is known to disrupt the reality that we live in. So I think that the government will not want to stop these kind of movements of innovation, but at the same time, they want to protect the end user. So to a certain degree, if this model will have a really big impact on society, I believe that in the EU AI Act, it is mandatory that based on how many people it will involve, that you need to apply it there, and that certain people will need to look at it in order to make sure that this is good monitored, is transparent, and that the model itself will not do any harm in of itself. So yeah, for that there will be some regulatory rules. And most of them are with regards to transparency, and that one knows which kind of data it was fed, one knows which kind of output we can get, and we know how this model is trained. Those are the most important things when it comes to very impactful AI solutions.
That makes me think, what if an AI model is going to do a lot of bad impact in society? Who will be responsible for that? Will it be government because they were not able to foresee and make regulation around those high risk use cases, or will it be on the companies because just because those regulation did not exist, so government has nothing to do with that at that point of time, and companies are completely responsible? Or it's the end user that they are using a tool which could be used in both ways, good and bad, and they are using it a bad way and getting impacted or impacting others? How do you see it, the visibility?
Yeah, very interesting question. I would say, at least like when we take a look at some cases which already have been happening, DALL-E 3 from OpenAI got a lot of lawsuits against it because some artists were claiming that their kind of art was represented in this model and that they know that it was trained on their data, so their art, and therefore they should get part of the share. So they were claiming copyright and the use of their work without consent. And in that kind of, so from this point of view, it has been shown, at least in the law cases which already got covered, that the AI will think so randomly that it might be inspired, that it will be inspired from a lot of things. So not just this one artwork or these one artworks from this artist. And therefore it is very hard to make this one-on-one correlation between the output of the model and the input. And based on that, the artists lost so far. So when it comes to like who will take the blame when something goes wrong, in this case, the companies said, if you have, so like OpenAI, if you have any problems with the AI work that you generated with our model, because some artists will go after you, we will cover that. We will provide the people to prevent this from happening. So in this case, the AI companies themselves chose that they will take the blame if anything goes wrong. But I don't think that we will see this in general a lot. So this with the art is more of like an example where we see that the AI companies will take it. In the end, I'm more a proponent of that the user itself, while the user itself should be protected from harmful content, so from harmful output, at the same time, the user should be responsible for spreading harmful content even further. So let's say, again, with regards to image generation, that if you generate something which would be illegal to have and you're spreading it around, then I think the person itself who used the model should be responsible. When it comes to morals and ethics, it shouldn't be in the hands of the companies, because then you also get censorship. Then you see, that a lot of things will be taken down because this isn't right. And I think that if people are using it but not spreading it in a harmful way, or even if they spread it in a harmful way, the people should be put responsible and not the companies.
So do you see any solution for that? A user is already spreading some harmful. Can we make some kind of structure or some monitoring body specialized to track specialized to control this kind of bad spread or bad impact of AI means?
I think we already have rules for that. I mean, it's also like you shouldn't do any hate speech. You shouldn't discriminate against certain people of a different race or of a different like background or something like that. So we already have certain rules in place for this. And if you use an AI model in order to provoke and do harmful things, instead of, I don't know, using just social media or other things, we already have rules for that. And I think those could also be used when a certain person uses AI to go against it. Yeah, so AI is just a tool to create something different. And yeah, the one who uses it in the wrong way, just like a knife, for example. I mean, a knife is very helpful in the kitchen in order to cut your meat and all your vegetables and stuff. And just for the use of that, nobody should be held like responsible. But once you use the knife and start murdering people, yeah, then you're the one to blame and not the maker of the knife, because it wasn't meant to kill people. It was meant for the use in the kitchen.
Yeah. And actually, and that's the actual issue here, that the knife, which is AI in this case, is being democratized. And that means it's going to be in the hands of children or other people who have not read the user manual of how to use it, or they are not aware or not that mature about the correct use, and they can use it in any way, either to they can use it to kill somebody, and that means in metaphorical terms, or and that means they can use it to do bad impact to others, and then they can also use to harm themselves because they just do not have that capability to be able to handle it.
I would say, like, let's make it a bit more precise. Let's say you want to use an AI model in order to create a fake profile, and want to gain, I don't know, a lot of subscribers, or you're spreading it for other reasons in order to provide some disinformation. Once you use the pictures of the actual person, for example, you would be causing an identity fraud to a certain degree. And once you would use AI in order to put this person in a different situation which he was in, to make him look even worse, that's would also be considered, I would say. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know for sure, but we have already regulations in place in order to fight these kind of behaviors. And yet again, I would say AI is just a tool, and while somebody in the present with very good Photoshop skills could also create something which is realistic and put somebody in a bad situation, the same things that would apply to him, I would say, should also apply to a person who can now create it more easily, but is also harmful. So in the end, the user should take the responsibility and use the AI model once it is handed to the user in a safe way. Mm-hmm. And the companies themselves can for sure filter certain things out, such that the user doesn't even get into contact with these kinds of harmful behavior. But there will be cases missed. Like we can't filter out everything, that's for sure. So therefore, the few cases which get through, which we can't prevent, for those cases, I would say the user should take responsibility to not spread it further and use it in a harmful way, because they have in the end the power to spread it, and they are in the end the final filter.
Is it possible to do an early detection of this, to create some monitoring body which can which keep on assessing impact, how much bad impact or mild bad impact of all the current products in the market?
I think that there isn't really a model for it. A model in the case that we don't have a set of rules to apply to. But from what I've read in the EU AI Act, I've seen that I think that there were some examples with regards to what kind of programs fall into what kind of risk category. Mm-hmm. So they do think about it, and the entire EU AI Act will also be written out with definitions. So what does an AI model mean? What do all these different kind of threat levels mean? So in the end, we will have at least some strict guidance and some knowledge about how we should handle these kind of models, I believe. And from a more production or solution which might help, I would say another AI product, for example, would be an idea to build such a filter which you can use in your browser to prevent even other harmful things that might be generated. That would be a solution which people could build, I would say, but I'm not sure. I don't think that is available right now. Or you could sell these kind of solutions to the company itself who built these solutions. I know, for example, that with regards to diversity, it's a thing to, or with regards to bias, certain tools are available to measure your model against subgroups in the world, such that it doesn't discriminate a certain minority. So you can use these kind of tools to filter out biases that your data model or your AI model might have. So to a certain degree, there are already these kind of solutions. But when it comes to the output itself after the generation, so after the model has been trained, I'm not familiar with any solutions right now.
If we just think out of box, can there be a body which a government body or some or an organization combined of companies representatives, government representatives, and some maybe common people to be actively testing all the AI products which are available there, and then try to think and brainstorm on that okay, what could be its direct bad impact and what could be its indirect bad impact, which is not directly visible, which could be only visible after certain time, but they can at least predict it by behavior of those products. Does this sound plausible or practical? This kind of this?
No, I wouldn't say so. If you want to have people look at every solution which will be thought of or created, it will be very hard to monitor, because the thing is, AI models in of itself try to predict something based on reality. But reality always changes, and while it does repeat from time to time in history, in a certain way, it rather rhymes than that it is exactly happening in the same way. So reality will change, and therefore you also need to monitor your model in order to make it fit the reality again after a certain while. And so this would mean that every AI solution, if it wants to also be looked at from a government representative, that would mean that with each new AI model, and you also need to know that like a big company like Amazon or Google has for each kind of each small subset of feature has like maybe 20, 30 models. So we would have way too many AI models to look at compared to the people that we can use and also would like to use to regulate it. So yeah, from that point of perspective, you can't really have the government look at every model because there are way too many models to be looked at. I see it two ways which we could solve it. One is if a company gets big enough and has enough of AI use, make sure that you have an AI ethics officer. Somebody who is its main responsibility is to make sure that all AI models which are in production are used ethically correct. So from the company's point of view, you could do that. And the second thing which a company can do in order to make it less threatful is to create open source models. So make public what kind of data the model is trained on, how the model is trained, and what kind of output you expect the model to have. And not only that, but also explain where this model should be used for. Because, yeah, based on what kind of answer you get, it can be used in certain cases, but not in other cases. So as long as these things are provided, you can have, if it's open source, you can have other specialists which are volunteering then for it, also look at these models, try to get to understand these models better, and provide feedback regards to if these are good or bad. You also see this in software engineering in of itself. The best practice is to also provide open source code, because then even cybersecurity people can look at it, and they can also provide feedback with regards to the security based on the code that they have written. So, because code should be written securely enough to be published open source, such that it can be a threat level with regards to security. And I think if we use the same approach in AI, make sure that our AI models are public, that people know what it was trained on, how it got trained, and what kind of output they can expect, that other people who might also are an expert in this field can look at it and provide feedback where it is necessary. So I think it should be something where people themselves feel the responsibility in order to do these kind of jobs.
How to prevent deepfakes or sophisticated phishing, which is happening these days. So it looks like because of AI, more complex problems are created, and then using the same AI, we are trying to solve those. We are creating complex solution to solve those complex problems.
That's kind of true. The thing is, the problems that are arising now are so much different from the problems which we had in the past. And the interesting thing is that these same kind of models also tend to have this solution in them. So yeah, that's kind of the case. And while it might be more complex on a theoretical level, in practice, because you know what the input and output is of the model, you get a certain feeling that, so in the end it is, I would say, still a simple solution where the theory behind this is complex, but in the way that we can use it as a tool is rather easy. So yeah.
And is there a concrete solution for deepfakes?
For defects in models, no, not that I think of. Like, yeah, you could make other model or the same model look at itself, provide feedback to the model or to the system that it is good or bad. But otherwise, I would say no. Not if you not design it into the solution.
Okay, so then how do you see we can control after a deepfake is causing some political impact or impacting like elections or other major events? How to deal with that threat?
It's very hard. I mean, as I said, like you might be thinking about a solution which also uses similar kind of AI to try to tackle it, but then you get like an arms race from like which kind of AI works better. Yeah. Is the detection algorithm better or is the generating algorithm better? So that will be an arms race, which you will need to keep fighting because otherwise the other one will win. And on the other hand,
I think what you just mentioned, that's how our future is going to look like. The race between good and bad.
Yeah.
Sometimes the bad use case of AI is ahead, and then the good one will try to control it and overtake it, and then again a new bad will come which will be difficult to control. So it will keep on going this loop.
Yeah, probably. But I think that's also something why I'm believing that we shouldn't like make it fully controllable by a human, or not by a human, but like make it really controllable, is that it has so much potential for the good people to make even a greater world, that putting like too many chains around it will not help us. And also the bad actors do try to put these chains off again. So as long as we try, the developers themselves really try to do good for the world, I think that all the good that they can create will in the end outlive anything bad that AI could create. I really do believe in the and also from all the like peers in my field I've talked to, like everybody I talked to was like, well, we really can do something good with AI. So I believe that most cases where it doesn't end up good, there's either a very small amount of bad behaviors, bad participants, And otherwise, it's just a defect model which wasn't thought of good enough with regards to like how the output should look like. So they just forgot something, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so let's talk about how AGI, artificial general intelligence, is going to impact us on philosophical level. I mean, currently a lot of people see their work as the purpose of their life.
Mm-hmm.
So they really find fulfillment with their work. So how they will find fulfillment when those work will be gone to AGI?
Yeah, the AGI. Yeah, that they will have it very difficult, because in a world where AGI is the base norm, which would mean that you have other people also call it artificial superintelligence. So by just the definition of AGI that I would give it to it is something that works better with less costs, faster than a human. So therefore, if AGI would be developed and we have it, then it would mean that all people who get the purpose out of work will not really get the purpose out of it anymore, because a robot or an AI model can do it better. So these people, really struggle, and the only thing that I would say that they can do is to look at more from the inside, to get back to themselves and think about like that, just being present and alive and go for it, just being here, that is enough to be there. So I would say a lot of people will need to go on a more spiritual journey, as well as looking for some, how to call it,
Enlightenment.
I wouldn't really say enlightenment, but at least try to deal with their own psychological self. Try to find it within them instead of trying to find their purpose from external sources.
So, and that appears quite interesting to me, because when I think of this problem, then I think, of course, one solution, I think of one solution that could be that those people can try to find there will be some new work, and they can try to find fulfillment on solving those new challenges, or on those new. So a lot of changes on the work front I see, because if there will not be a new work or new challenges to solve, then a lot of people will be they will face identity crisis, because their purpose is gone.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. It is the identity crisis, really where it comes down to. So a lot of people will probably need some form of help with regards to their mental health, and they need to look further on a personal development front to find the happiness within them instead of from external sources. That's what I think.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe there is going to be an AI tool going to help people to connect themselves to their core and get fulfillment from there, rather than seeking for it out in the outside world. Yeah,
that's one possible solution. I mean, you have Elon Musk with the neural link, which comes, I would say, rather close to it. But yeah, I could also see a future in front of me where people can actually do what they want to do, except for that they are not getting paid to do it. So you can really decide like what do I want? Because due to that, the labor work will be so cheap, all the products will be cheap, all the services will be very cheap. So we will end up in a world where prices will go very, 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 very low with regards to like almost everything which you wouldn't like to have. And something which will be very valuable will probably be the services of humans themselves. Because the only thing that you can't get from a machine to a certain degree is the human interaction. But that will also only work out until we have machines that look and act like a real human. So once we got that, with also the sympathy that robots already can show, which you can see at ChatGPT, for example, then it will be very hard to even fill in these human experiences, because also a robot can do that. But yeah, those will probably stay alive for the longest, those kind of services.
I'm really looking forward to that future when I can or anybody else can do what they really want to do, rather than uh, what the economy pressure them to do, means rather than doing something just for earning something. So I find your perspective very insightful, that all the services are going to be cheap in the future, and and then value of human interaction or human service is going to increase, or caregiver or other kind of help one human can do to other human. And that means machine is actually, or AI is actually helping us to generate more wisdom in this case, because right now people are doing a lot of things, and without their wish they want to do something else, but they are doing it just for the sake of earning money, or just because others are doing that in big number and they are following the herd. So these are some common trends we see. And in these all race, they never get that time and space, and never able to develop that striving to follow their own passion, to follow their own the thing which really excites them and makes them happy. And if it's possible, because in the future, because of AI, then I see a lot happier world, if we see just from this perspective, because people will be just doing what they really want to do, and then they are going to be happy, and they are going to make others also happy. And yeah, and that means and that will eventually lead to, that can eventually lead to wisdom, because they are not just using their intelligence to chase something which does not fulfill them. So they will then use their intelligence in the things or jobs which can really fulfill them, or which they are passionate about. And this mixture of passion and intelligence, I can see creating more and more wisdom for the society in general, because intelligence without passion generally does not create that environment to develop our wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, it's indeed the case that if we have more freedom to do whatever we want to do, and have the abundance of all kinds of things that we could have wanted to do, that we gain probably also more the wisdom to do the things that are more helpful towards ourselves and others. But at the same time, yeah, it's also, it will still be difficult for a lot of people, especially the ones who really rely on these external factors to feel a sense of purpose. So these are the things where you, like, if you're already thinking that this AGI might be around the corner, I would say looking on how to be mentally aware of this and train for this would something to start doing now, to prepare yourself for these kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it will not become like from one day to the other that AGI will take over, because on one part we have the regulations, which will probably slow things down, and on the other hand, it's also so that I mean, as I've also told previously, is that we will see a degree to which kind of work will be replaced first. So you can also see the replacement of workers from the most creative ones all the way to the more blue collar kind of work. The faster we are at the blue collar workplaces or workers which will be replaced, the closer we will get to AGI.
Mm-hmm.
So we can keep that as a skill and think about our own development, our own personal development with regards to are we ready for this kind of world where we have all this freedom and no external requirements or responsibilities? Or
maybe AI can help us with that too, to
yeah, probably.
to be able to act properly when that kind of freedom is there in the coming decades.
Yeah, I mean, if they have all the answers and are way smarter than us, then we can probably ask them in order to help us to achieve this sense of purpose without having the external sources.
I have a doubt about services getting cheaper with AI adoption in the future. And the reason is that all the big countries are developing AI and they are on the forefront of AI. And there are a lot of other countries which are behind. So that means the wealth which will be generated by AI and that big wealth will be generally in those big countries. And currently in our economy, we do not have any structure to be able to distribute it wisely in the other countries which do not have and that much AI tools which are not that much that much into AI development. So how do you see that? Will services get cheap only in the big countries or also in other countries?
I think that the richest countries which are also working on this will see the benefits first. I hope that we will not get any perverse incentives and try to make us even richer and better and or at I don't know, create so much wealth for ourselves that we don't share it. I really hope that we will share our products in the end with companies which are not so far. But yeah, I mean, currently we live in a more consumption-based society. So from that point of view, I could see that companies which are already very big first use it just to increase their profits. But thereafter, I mean, especially when we have more transparency into these models, then we should also see these things coming. So when we see, hey, this is something which is really close to AGI, and it does all these things inside the company without any human intervention, then that would mean that we can say, hey, this maybe we need to think about a different solution, because all this you have kind of a monopoly with regards to this model, which generates so much wealth for yourself that this is bad for the entire economy. And that's also something which has happened in the past with the Rockefellers. They got a monopoly and they just got too big. And then the government said, well, I need to break you up into separate companies, because otherwise there's no competition and there's too much unhealthy wealth extremes. So yeah, we can solve that by providing an open source model, or at least the bigger ones, which will be used in either for customers or internally. And then by saying this is something which is so great and so productive that we can't have this just in this one place. So if we handle it that way and share this efficiency, then that I would say is the way to go.
With this, we are already at the end of our podcast. So it was very nice to discuss about impact of AI from different point of view. philosophical and economical and other point of view, and I came to know about a lot of new things during this conversation, and those really surprised me, a lot of those. So thank you very much for sharing knowledge with us.
Yes, yeah, of course. Thank you very much for having me here. And yeah, it's great to hear that you guys learned something.
Perfect. Thank
Thanks.